project's about exploring with offender learners and designing with offenders a new ILP whilst they're in custodial care. It's particularly important so they know where their starting point is and where their journey is going to be taking them. We get very short notice of when a prisoner's being transferred or shipped out to another establishment. We do, however, and I think most prisons do, try to send off the ILPs to where their destination would be. However, it's not 100%. All the offenders, when they start a new prison, has to start the initial assessment, they start inductions, they attend the advice and guidance, and have to start all over again in education as well. So we get very little history of what they've achieved in previous prisons, what their goals are, what their short-term goals are and what their long-term goals are and what their needs are. So we get very limited information from that. Our new style of ILP looks at a proper interview with the learner. We look at realistically what their long-term goals are, what is it that they're working towards, so they have a picture in their mind of where they want to be. You came to the focus group and one of the first things we did was to look at an individual learning plan, didn't we? Now I think it was you, Fabian, that wanted pictures on there. Yeah,
because I can't read and write.
Out of a selection of pictures, you picked out sort of these are your long-term goals.
My long-term goal is plumbing. I love plumbing. Gardening, because I got allotment outside. Yeah. And I used to it from back home, so it's a thing like, that's my hobby.
That's your hobby, right. And this one?
I like woodwork.
You do?
Yeah, woodwork is, you learn a lot of skills.
Yeah.
You get to fix like furnitures, bed, wardrobe and stuff like that.
Sure.
These classes, this helped me, like when I go outside, I'm gonna focus for these things. My dad, he's got business for the carpenter.
Carpenter?
Yeah. My wife, she helped me for the writing like this. So I'm happy.
These are really interesting for me. I've looked at lots of ILPs and I find these really interesting. First of all, the fact that you've got pictures on. What was the impact of suggesting that you use pictures with the guys you were working with?
When we looked at sort of old ILPs from different service providers, they didn't understand a lot of the jargon that us tutors use. So that was our first point of call. So I took that off, and then I said, well, okay, it's about your learning. What would you like to see on there? And one of the learners suggested that, well, he couldn't read and write particularly well, but what he'd like to do is to see some pictures. It gave a pictorial kind of image of what they would like to do in the future. So I went with that idea, I went onto the internet and I got lots of images and I just left them on the desk and we discussed them. And as we were doing that, then the conversation started to flow. Well, this is what I want to do. You know, and this is what I need to do now in order to do that.
And they didn't necessarily need the language.
No, not at all.
For explaining, I want an allotment. So, you know, they're able to get the pictures to visually show what their aspirations are. So, and the language can come from that, can't it? As well,
definitely. Then the next session was to looking at writing down the long-term goals and then the short-term goals of what they can realistically do whilst they're here. Now, as you can see, with some of the learners, they've asked me to scribe for them.
Yes, that's interesting. Can you tell me why you might want to scribe for someone or need to?
Well, these are entry-level learners.
Right.
One of the guys cannot read and write at all.
Right.
And both the learners here are ESOL learners. Though they've got some literacy skills, they felt more confident for me to do. But what I did do is, when we reviewed their targets, to encourage them to write their own responses on their reviews. But as you can see, they reviewed each target and also that they reviewed their long-term goals and their short-term goals. What they found with the ones they were looking at, they kind of pointed out that it could have been anyone on these targets.
Right, okay, so they were too generic. They weren't individual enough.
Absolutely. And then it was up to negotiation and trying to get them to sort of reflect and see what kind of skills they are learning from the targets that they want to achieve themselves.